Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your sources, could be articles, research, maybe even just notes you've jotted down, and we really dig in to find those deep insights. We want to give you that shortcut, help you get well informed, maybe throw in a few surprising facts, and hopefully keep it interesting enough to keep you hooked. So today we're jumping into something pretty fascinating. It's a manuscript called Neraca by Akar Teknologi. And this isn't just like a standard book. It's described as a really deep exploration into, well, being human self-discovery, our place in the world, all those contradictions we live with.
Exactly. And our mission for you today, it's pretty straightforward, but also quite deep. We want to pull out the key pieces of wisdom from this look at the human condition. The goal is to help you think about some of those big questions, maybe find a bit of clarity for your own journey.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack this thing. #TAG navigating the modern landscape in the self. All right, so Neraca starts right off the bat with something super relevant, especially now. Chapter 1, The Echo Chamber. The manuscript doesn't pull any punches. It calls social media platforms breeding grounds for polarization and division. Talks about how we kind of curate our own digital bubbles. Hits close to home, doesn't it?
It really does. And what the author digs into here isn't just that it happens, but how. It points to the algorithms, how they're built to keep us engaged. But in doing that, they amplify our biases. They create what the text calls a distorted view of reality, this feedback loop. We end up shielded from, the discomfort of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
That awkward feeling when our beliefs get challenged. It's like building a little reality fort.
Yeah, and it's not just intellectual, is it? There's a real emotional side. The manuscript talks about the cacophony of voices clamoring for attention, and those headlines designed to provoke outrage or inspire fear. You feel that, that constant noise when you're scrolling. It's pretty draining.
Absolutely. It's a state of overwhelm almost. But Neraca doesn't just leave us there diagnosed and depressed. It suggests a way out. Things like seeking out different perspectives, actually talking to people with different views, challenging our own assumptions, and crucially, embracing the discomfort of uncertainty, which I think raises a really key question for all of us, right? When everything online is sort of designed for comfort, how do we genuinely choose to step outside that, to seek out things that might actually challenge us?
That's a tough one, and it connects really well to the next point, Chapter 3, The Illusion of Choice. The manuscript uses such a perfect example, picking something to watch on Netflix. I mean, seriously, who hasn't spent ages just scrolling, feeling paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of options, like the book says, and then you just give up or rewatch something you've seen a million times?
Or end up watching cat videos, yeah. Both chuckle lightly. It's a great illustration of the paradox of choice, right? More doesn't always mean better or freer. And Neraca argues this illusion goes way beyond just streaming. It seeps into consumerism. All the marketing ploys and psychological manipulation designed to get us to part with our hard-earned cash, always needing the next new thing.
But the manuscript offers an alternative, right? A way out of that cycle.
It does. It suggests that chasing more stuff is ultimately kind of empty. The real insight here, I think, is that true happiness cannot be found in the accumulation of stuff, but in the relationships we cultivate and the experiences we cherish. So real freedom isn't about having infinite choices. Maybe it's about choosing less, but more intentionally.
Investing deeply in what actually matters, freeing up that mental energy, makes sense. So if we're caught in this illusion of choice, it tracks that the burden of expectation, which is Chapter 4, would also be a major theme. The manuscript paints this picture of societal pressure to conform to societal norms, feeling like a boulder in a backpack. That image really lands.
It's such a strong metaphor. And Neraca gives us these character sketches. There's Emily, who followed the script, good grades, college, job, marriage, kids, retire. But she felt like she was living a prison sentence, basically. Then you have Mark, who actively defied those expectations to follow his passion. He shows it's possible to, as the book says, chart our own course in life.
These acts of defiance, as the manuscript calls them, what should the listener take away from that?
I think the core message is that society's checklist isn't the only path available. Neraca really champions the idea that the freedom to be yourself is the real prize. It's not about just being rebellious. It's about lining up with who you actually are, even if that looks different from the norm.
And then things get even more layered with Chapter 5, The Fractured Self. This chapter talks about how we internalize all these conflicting identities. It's not just outside pressure anymore, but all the messages we kind of absorb and make part of ourselves.
Exactly. This fractured self idea isn't just about, acting differently at work versus home. Neraca suggests we really internalize these clashes. It creates this internal disconnect. Like Alex, the character who's a confident go-getter during the day, but is haunted by insecurity and self-doubt at night. Or Sam, who is non-binary and struggling to fit into a world that wants neat boxes.
So how does Neraca propose we handle that internal conflict? It sounds pretty challenging.
It offers a really powerful perspective, actually. It says, true authenticity lies not in conforming, but in embracing the full spectrum of our identities. All of it. The light and the dark, the joy and the sorrow. It's about integrating those pieces, finding wholeness in the complexity, not trying to hide bits away. Hashtag tag, 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 two. Navigating life's inevitabilities and purpose.
Dealing with identity, expectations, it feels like that naturally leads into the quest for meaning, which Neraca tackles in chapters 2 and 23. The book calls it this relentless pursuit that often feels more like a wild goose chase, which can be kind of true, right?
Oh, definitely. And the manuscript shows this search in really human ways. You've got Bob and his midlife crisis convertible, wondering if freedom comes with a higher insurance premium. Host chuckles. And then Susan, the office gossip, who tells herself she's seeking truth, but really just stirs up drama. It reminds us that search can look, well, messy sometimes, even a bit comical.
Yeah. But alongside those maybe more superficial quests, Neraca also shows characters like Emily, who's feeling lost, and Daniel, who's on a more spiritual path. It connects this whole search to the idea that meaning isn't some endpoint we arrive at, but a journey that unfolds slowly, one step at a time.
But what's your take on Neraca's angle here? Are we finding meaning or are we creating it?
That's a great question. And Neraca seems to lean towards creation. It frames meaning as something we actively build through our choices, our connections, our experiences, less like finding a hidden treasure, more like weaving a tapestry over time. It subtly pushes back against the idea of one single meaning of life out there, making it much more personal.
A personal, ongoing process. And that journey often feels dominated by the weight of time, which is chapter 8. The manuscript uses this image, time, as a millstone around our necks, a relentless force. Wow, that feels heavy.
It captures that universal pressure, doesn't it? We see it in Maria with her never-ending to-do list, just always running, and Michael focused on milestones and achievements, but still feeling like time is just slipping through his fingers like grains of sand, feeling empty despite the success.
So for people feeling that weight, what's the advice from Neraca? How do we lighten that load?
The core advice is pretty profound. Let go of our attachment to the past and future. Easier said than done, obviously. But the goal is to embrace the present moment, to find happiness in the simple joys of everyday life. It's really a call for mindfulness, isn't it? To be here, now, instead of always chasing the next thing or dwelling on yesterday.
Which ties into the next idea, the dance of impermanence in chapter 13. The fact that everything is fleeting and transient, that's a truth we often fight against, I think. We absolutely do. Neraca shows Lily dealing with grief, slowly learning that loss is, well, a natural part of the human experience. And Ben, who had all the material wealth and worldly success, but felt empty and unfulfilled when it disappeared. It doesn't sugarcoat these realities.
But it doesn't leave us feeling hopeless about it either.
No, definitely not. The manuscript actually reframes impermanence, not as a curse, but maybe even a blessing to be embraced.
Yeah.
The idea is if we understand things don't last, maybe we appreciate them more now. We cherish the moments, the connections, knowing they're precious. It's about finding a kind of freedom and acceptance.
Okay, and rounding out this section, there's the illusion of control in chapter 24. We see Maya, whose perfect plans get thrown off by unforeseen circumstances, and Javier, whose strict routines just can't stop unexpected events from happening. It's that feeling of life just happening, despite our best efforts.
Absolutely. Life just doesn't follow our spreadsheets, does it? Neraca suggests that real freedom, or maybe peace, comes from surrendering to the flow of existence, from recognizing that the only constant in life is change itself. If you zoom out, it's about shifting focus, less about controlling everything outside, more about building adaptability inside, learning to accept and navigate rather than just resist, trusting the process maybe, ##33, cultivating inner strength and connection.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. How does Neraca guide us toward actively building up our inner resources? Starting with the gift of gratitude, chapter 11. It's described beautifully as a beacon of light that can change even the darkest of days.
Yeah, it's presented as something really fundamental, a core practice. Neraca uses Ava's example, just taking a moment for a warm cup of tea, her kids laughing, watching a sunset. These small things bring you real comfort. And then David, who started healing from depression, partly by consciously shifting focus, moving from what was wrong in his life to what was right, finding those glimmers.
That sounds simple, but, finding gratitude when things are genuinely awful can feel almost impossible. Does the book talk about how to do that?
It does touch on that. It emphasizes that gratitude arises from within. It's presented as a choice that we make each and every day. So it's not about pretending hardship doesn't exist. It's more about actively looking for the small good things that do still exist, even amidst the bad, training your brain almost to notice them. It's an internal muscle you can build regardless of what's happening externally.
An internal muscle. I like that. Then there's the path of forgiveness, chapter 12, called a profound act of grace. We usually think of forgiving someone else.
Right, but Neraca kind of flips that. It shows Sarah and Emma, sisters with a broken bond, healing not by forgetting, but by letting go of the resentment. And James working through betrayal, not for the other person, but to find his own peace. The manuscript really stresses that forgiveness is about freeing ourselves, getting out of that prison of resentment and finding peace internally. It's ultimately a gift to yourself, allowing you to move on.
Okay, that's powerful. Then the dance of resilience, chapter 17, celebrating that indomitable spirit to endure, to adapt, and to rise above. This feels crucial right now.
It really does. It speaks to that inner strength we all have. Neraca highlights people like Jamal, who came from poverty but used it as motivation, and Maria, who literally rebuilt her life after a natural disaster. It shows that inner strength that carries us through the storm. These aren't superheroes. They're examples of deep human capacity.
So resilience isn't something you necessarily get from outside, but something you find within.
Exactly. Neraca portrays it as something that resides within, like the spark of hope that flickers in the darkness. It's that core belief in your own ability to get through things, finding that anchor inside when the world outside is chaotic.
And leading from that strength is the power of compassion, chapter 19, described as a thread that binds us all together.
This chapter feels really warm. You see Emily, the therapist, just listening, understanding, and holding space for people struggling. And James, whose recovery from addiction was helped by the simple kindness and compassion of others. Neraca really positions compassion as this active, powerful force, something that can heal wounds, bridge divides, and bring light into dark situations. It's not just feeling sorry for someone, it's an active connection.
Which flows nicely into the ripple effect of generosity in chapter 20, the idea that even the smallest act of kindness can spread outwards.
It's a lovely idea, reinforcing that interconnectedness again. We see Sarah volunteering, creating ripples she might not even be aware of, and Alex, who received help when he needed it, now paying it forward. The manuscript frames generosity not just as giving stuff, but as a whole approach, a way of living our lives with open hearts and open hands, knowing that giving connects us and often brings back unexpected rewards.
And all these threads, resilience, compassion, generosity, they seem to culminate in the Tapestry of Connection, chapter 9, and the Song of Unity, chapter 16.
Yes, this is where Neraca really weaves it all together. We see examples like Emily and Jack's lifelong friendship spanning continents, Maya finding her tribe, her community, Amina's village living in harmony despite differences, Diego traveling the world and seeing the shared humanity everywhere. The core message here is about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and actually celebrating diversity as a source of strength. It's about focusing on what unites us, building bridges, and seeing ourselves in each other. A really powerful call for collective understanding. #tag conclusion.
Wow, okay. So after digging through all of that in Neraca, what's the big takeaway? It feels like a map for understanding ourselves in this really complex, often contradictory world.
I think that's a great way to put it. The conclusion section of the manuscript really ties it up by talking about that constant grapple, the dichotomy of human nature, desire and necessity, want and need. We're always navigating these tensions. But amidst all that, Neraca points towards what it calls profound wisdom. And this is where it explicitly brings in some core Stoic ideas: resilience, wisdom, acceptance. It emphasizes that even if we can't control what happens to us, we possess the sovereign power to govern our internal reactions and responses. Zooming out, it's really about finding that inner stability, that peace, by focusing on our perspective, our thoughts, our actions, the things we can actually influence.
And understanding the author's background really helps too, right? The About the Author section mentions their own struggles. And this realization that everyone's shaped by their unique upbringing, culture, religion, background. The author invites us to embrace that diversity, understanding that these differences shape our beliefs, our morals. It adds such an important layer to the whole book.
Absolutely essential context. It reinforces that Neraca isn't offering a one-size-fits-all answer. It's more like a framework for understanding our shared humanity, acknowledging our unique paths within it.
And then the afterword leaves us with this thought: the book is like a mirror held up to our own lives. It reminds us that this journey, the journey of self-discovery, it's never truly over. It just keeps unfolding. #tag outro.
Well, that was quite the deep dive into Neraca today. We covered a lot from those digital echo chambers and the illusion of choice, to dealing with expectations, understanding our fractured selves, the search for meaning, the pressure of time, accepting impermanence, and then building those inner strengths: gratitude, forgiveness, resilience, compassion, generosity, and connection. Yeah, it's a rich text. And maybe a good final thought to leave you with comes from the epilogue, echoing that idea of the journey home from chapter 14. While we often search for some final answer or destination for meaning, Neraca suggests the real beauty isn't in arriving. It's in the instances of affection, mirth, and metamorphosis that mold us into our authentic selves, finding the splendor in the process itself.
The sojourn beckons. So, thinking about everything we unpacked from Neraca, what's one insight maybe you'll focus on this week? Something to cultivate a bit more inner strength or connection in your own life. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.